I'm all set to go if you are.
Yeah, I'm good.
Cool. Battleline Podcast. For all that is good in the world, does my mic sound okay?
Yeah, you're not crackling. You're not crackling today.
For the tech geeks out there, I've switched my USB microphone into an XLR. So yesterday, I'll show you real quick. I was at Micro Center by me, and then Sam Ash really geeking out hard because I bought this Scarlett Solo. For anybody who knows audio, only you're seeing this, but yeah. And then I bought this Cloud Lifter, which makes your microphone sound more like a condenser microphone, really. So hopefully I sound good. Hopefully I have all these kinks worked out because it has been aggravating as fuck, not going to lie. But I think we're good now. Once I move, I'm really going to get a badass setup, but this definitely upgraded things a little.
Yeah, you sound good. Don't worry. Cool. It sounds better. I you know me, though. I just go with what I got.
Yeah, well, you sound good. I mean, here's the thing. Every now and again, I listen back to old episodes, and me being an audio guy, I'm just like, holy shit, this sounds bad. Because when we were in studio, it sounded good, but when we were trying to figure out the Skype thing early on, some of those episodes, man, it is almost unlistenable.
It is rough. That's all right. Hey, that makes it good. We're all AM radio. That makes good.
Yeah, some of those though, it's like, and they're great shows, like like the Tig Show that gets so many plays still, and I listen back and I'm just like, this is rough. So we've been sounding really good. I think some people who don't know any better would think we're in the same room. But with that Battleline Podcast, sometimes we do this show and we don't have much to get to, and we just kind of wing it. There's a lot to get to today. But for the new listeners, because we got a lot of new listeners last week, my name is Ian Scotto.
I'm Chris Tonto Paranto.
Yeah, and we interview different inspiring figures in the special operations world, CIA contractors, and every now and again the occasional musician and that type of thing. But before we get to all that we want to get to on this episode, Fort Scott Munitions is a manufacturer of multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition. It's designed to tumble upon impact in soft tissue, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. This ammunition was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military-grade ammunition design, and it was found that not only did the TUI ammunition outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you receive the same results with each pull of the trigger. Fort Scott Munitions is available throughout privately owned businesses in all 50 states. Go to the dealer locator on their website. Go to fortscottmunitions.com, click on dealer locator, and chances are you are going to find a store within a pretty decent range that has Fort Scott Munitions. I mean, I'm here on Long Island, New York. This is not a place that has a ton of gun dealers, and you could find Fort Scott Munitions pretty close to me. So you're going to find it pretty close to you, chances are, no matter what state you live in, as long as you could find, a gun and ammo place near you. So go there right now, fortscottmunitions.com, dealer locator, and they're not selling ammo on the site, but they are selling their awesome merch and all that stuff. So use the promo code BATTLELINE when you go there for that stuff, and you're going to get 15% off your order. Only available to listeners of the Battleline Podcast. Fort Scott Munitions is a proud supporter of Chris Paranto, Battleline Tactical, and this podcast right here, the Battleline Podcast. Let's go.
From Omaha, Nebraska to New York City, from planet Earth to extraterrestrial life in space, a podcast with no equal, engaged in unconventional warfare through your speakers and headphones. This is a show about embracing the suck, conquering your demons, and finding God in the face of adversity. Chris Tonto Paranto.
Twitch is on. Motherfucker, I'm going to shoot you in the face.
Ian Scotto.
Ian and I have been dating for a long time.
You are now tuned into the Battleline Podcast.
The switch is on. Battleline Podcast. As I said in the intro before the intro, we got a lot of stuff to get to. Before we do, though, I'll tell you something I just wanted to mention. I have not done as much running as I used to, which I've told you before. I mean, my workouts have been more, lifting and stuff, and I'll do the occasional cardio. And for the past few years, when I do my cardio, I'll just do a couple of miles here and there. I don't really do long distance like I used to. It might be the good weather. It might be that I had my KTP Thaddeus shirt on. Shout out to them. Something in me just said, I'm in the mood to really run today. And I had like a very long run. And the reason I bring this up is I got to tell you, this is the first time in a while I've experienced like truly that runner's high. Maybe the first time in like 9 years. And what I mean by that, and I don't know if you get this is why I'm bringing it up to you because you are an avid runner. So when I run all the way into Queens from here on Long Island, I pass like a Starbucks, I pass a McDonald's, I pass what used to be a Blockbuster, and all these landmarks are like, okay, I'm getting closer. On the way back, I completely lost track of time in the fact that I was so automated in my running that at a certain point on the way back, I said, wait, I already passed like all these landmarks. I'm this close to my house. Does that ever happen to you? Because that hasn't happened to me in years.
Yeah, no, that's why I run, because you clears your head. You start thinking of things out there, thinking of things maybe you have to get done, but then you figure out how to get those things. And like I said, when you call me, I'm running. Most of the time I'm running when you call. It's like, this is my office. This is where I can get my mind clear and get online because I don't have any outside distractions. It's just the fresh air and the trees and the birds or like cities are great to run in. Don't think you have to always run in the outside in the wooded areas. The cities are fantastic because you got the buildings and you got the architecture, you've got the vehicles going by, you've got the different smells. But your brain goes and just starts thinking. I call it spiritual running is really what it is. So you went full spirit world there, brother. Spirit world. You're like one of the young guns, man. After doing peyote, I just entered the spirit world. That's what you did. I really
did though, man. And I haven't had that in ages. And I think, I hate that limited thinking, and I think I got trapped in that myself. I always like to be honest with you guys. I mean, I think if you guys in the audience think every day both of us wake up and we're inspired. It's not like that every day for anybody. And I think if anyone says that, they're kind of full of shit. Yeah. But yeah, I think I got trapped in this limited belief system in myself and that, I can't run like I used to. I've put on weight since then. And, a lot of that weight is muscle. I know people like say, I put on, 20 pounds of muscle. You don't really, some of it is always fat. And no matter how much you put on, you're lugging around more. It's hard. Yeah. It's harder to run. Yeah. And I think I got that stuck in my head of, I can't run like I used to. But I realized I'm actually closer to what I used to be. It's just, you kind of have to get in those first few miles that suck. You have to embrace the suck of those first few miles. And then once you're there, you're like, I'm in the swing of things. And at least for me, I totally lost track of time.
Well, and that's what running needs to be. I tell people to run, and I run 5 days a week, sometimes 6. Part of that's on the treadmill, guys, because I'm 50. I'm getting old. The joints can't take the pounding on the road all the time. But that's what it is. You just get out there and your mind clears and you just go. And that's when running becomes fun. Also, like I tell people, really, unless you're training for an event or you're training for, a marathon, or you're going in the Army and you're trying to train for 5 milers or 2K or, 5Ks, 5 milers, 10Ks or 10 milers, you really don't ever have to get out of your comfort zone to run. You just need to run. I tell everybody, if you want to improve, all you got to do is get out of your comfort zone 1 time a week. That's it. Every time else, just go put miles in, man. And that's just like you were doing. Just run at the pace that you feel like you want to go today. Only 1 day a week do you really need to get out there and actually make yourself uncomfortable where, oh my gosh, this sucks. But like if you're an avid runner, like Ian was saying, like I'll say over and over, even when you're doing sucky runs where I used to do mile repeats. Mile repeats are awful. It's where you run at almost 100% of your max for a mile, then you jog for a mile. Then you run 100%, and it's 100-ish, 90 to 100. You're going hard of what your fastest mile would be. And then you jog a mile. Even when you get to mile, I'd say 3 or 4, you still go into that okay, I've embraced the suck. This is good. Now this is actually, I feel like I'm improving, and you even get more motivated. And by the end of it, you've increased your endurance, your cardiovascular endurance, tenfold. But you don't want to do that every day, because then running becomes miserable, and that's why people quit. That's why I always tell people, when you start running, make it comfortable, make it fun, make it easy. Only make it uncomfortable, like where you're breathing and you can't breathe anymore. Your heart's going to explode one day a week once you're used to it. But that's why I think a lot of people quit running. It's because they feel like they've got to go out there and just crush themselves every day. And that's not how you get better at running. That makes you want to quit running, and that's why it makes it awful. And the military guys too, like, man, this running sucks. Well, yeah, they were crushing us that's what they were supposed to do. They were supposed to get better, and either you got better. We're going to get into this with PT later.
We'll get right.
Better on the run, on the Army PT. You got better on the run, or you didn't, but at least allowed them to place you in spots that you needed to be, or you knew at that point, like our good SEAL team buddy. What's his? We had.
You're thinking of Jake Zwig?
Jake. Sometimes you just, hey, you're not cut out for special operations because you can't run for shit. At least you know, but. When you're just training and you're doing it every day to make it fun, spiritual running, I call it, just running to get out, you just run to whatever pace you want to do. And or distance you want to do. And that's what you did. And that was awesome. You just went and you Forrest Gumped. You just kept running. I just kept running, and you didn't feel bad at all when you got done. Dude, I guarantee you, your cardiovascular has improved already just because of that. And you had a great run, and it didn't feel like you were crushing your balls to get it done.
Just the very beginning, and also the music helps, man.
The music helps. It does.
Pantera reinventing the steel, blasting the new Fear Factories. I love these two new Fear Factory songs. I've been listening to that. But you know what? I'll bookend it with one last thing. For those of you listening, because I know there's people out there in this category where you're like, hey, I'm just not in the shape to run. I can't run. You could definitely get to that point. Shout out to my friend Chris, who's at Lose the Jelly on Instagram. He, I believe, lost like 400 something pounds, and he was posting his workouts, and his original workouts were honestly just walking up the staircase. He was out of breath just walking up a flight of stairs, and he has gotten to the point where he is in freaking incredible shape. And I think people look at him and they're like, oh, did you get that surgery done? He did it all through hard work, man. All through hard work over the span of maybe 2 or 3 years, lost literally hundreds of pounds.
And that's all it takes, is just getting it started. Like we talk about every day, having a bad day, you're having an awful day, you're down in the dumps, you still got to move forward. And sometimes the moving forward is that baby steps. And that's what you're doing when you're running, especially when you're out of shape. Yes, it's going to be painful because you're carrying a lot more weight than your body should be carrying. So you get out there and you don't go for a run. You did what Chris did. You get out there, you do a walk. And then you start walking upstairs when you feel like it. And your body will tell you, and your mind will tell you, just like Ian's mind told him today, hey, I feel good. I can keep going.
It wasn't today, technically. It was the other day.
The other day. And that's how it works. That's why you just go a little bit more. And within a year, now you're running 2, 3, 4 miles. And within 2 years, if you keep it up, now you're running 8 miles, and it's easy. And then you get to a point like 50-year-olds like myself, where I go and it's just, okay, 2 miles is nothing. 4 miles, is okay. And that's just like an everyday thing now, where blowing a long run is like 10 to 16 miles. And that's where maybe I'll do it every once in a while, but it's now should become a normal habit, and it's become part of my lifestyle, which is just running. And it really does mentally, for you veterans out there, anybody suffering from post-traumatic stress or anything in your life, any stress in your life, running relieves that stress. And it does give you that endorphin high that you need at the end that makes you feel good. And yeah, bro, I'm glad you talked about it. It's a fantastic way to live your life, is having a running spiritual running high that you can get, and you can do it anytime. You can get out and do it anytime you want.
It's true, yeah. And at the very end of that run, it was like a reward that I ran past this driving range, and I saw the sunset right over the water, and I was like, cool. All right, this is the highlight of my day here. Anyway, we'll get to exactly what you were talking about, because we got to get to Karl Monger as well, which I'm excited for. But this was a big headline last week. Nearly half of female soldiers still failing new Army fitness test, while males pass easily. And that was written by Steve Bannon at military.com. That's funny. Steve Bannon, not to be confused with Steve Bannon. And I actually did look up his name. He's a veteran himself, because I know a lot of writers at military.com aren't always veterans. He is. But I know that this article fired you up, and I think it does play into a lot of what we already have known all along, but we have to pretend that we don't know, that males and females are not equal in everything.
No, and standards should be set and kept and maintained. What I saw, and hey, men are stronger, women are strong. There are certain assets where women are a lot stronger than men, and there are certain aspects where men are a lot stronger than women. What I get at is with the Army and the politicians, and I saw it when I went in. That was something that was a blessing for me to get booted out of the Army the first time I was in, and then go back in and do it again 3 years later. Go back in again and do basic training all over again. I got to see the standards and what happens when you lower standards from even when the first time I was in to the second time I was in. And standards are going to affect readiness. It affects combat readiness. It affects any kind of unit readiness. And if they have PT standards right now, they're looking at them and people are failing them, or women are failing them, or men are failing them. Right now, it's the women that are most likely to fail the new standards. When it says, oh, well, politicians and know-it-alls and think tanks are going to go in and reevaluate these standards, what that means is they're going to lower them. And they're going to continue to lower them until people pass.
But the problem is in this case, having the same standards for both, because it seems like, judging from the article and what they have in here, which I know you saw as well, it seems like it's too easy for the men, too hard for the women.
And that's where they should, just like when I was in, you had different standards. You had different age standards. You had different gender standards. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, because if you're going to excel, and that's that's one thing that I saw. If you're going to excel, and I went through ROTC when I got my green to go. I got my commission. I went through a couple women that were tremendous runners. One ran marathons. She was incredible runner. She was faster than half the guys. And her PT score, because you can get above the normal score, the top of the line score was on the exceeded scale, and she would get, like, for anybody that was in the Army, 300 was the max at that time. I know it's changed now because you had to max everything. That was your 300. And then if you did it once and you continue to do that, you went onto this extended scale where you could get 370, 380. I think my best was 372. And that was when I was in great shape. But she would always beat me because her standards were a little bit lower for the max than mine were on push-ups and sit-ups. And the run was a little bit low, but not much. But she would always beat me because her standards were a little bit lower. So when she got on the extended scale, she got more points for it because she only had to hit here. Yeah, but you know what? Did that make, women are terrible? Oh, this is shit. It was fun. It made it a competition between me and her to see who got the highest score in battalion. And it was any animosity between us. So what that she had a lower standard because she was a female than I had because of a male. She still was exceeding, and she still was kicking guys' asses. But we didn't need to see that there was a scale all along the line, even for everybody. Just keep it separate. There's nothing wrong with that. And she wasn't offended by it. She never said, oh, shit, I wish I was on the men's scale. No, she's like, I'm kicking ass. I'm doing well. I am destroying my standards. And even colonels and lieutenant colonels and all her command saw it as well. And not one of them in command, male or female, said, man, that standard she has in the women is way too low. She should go to the men's standard. No, it was, wow, she is an incredible soldier. And she was. And I think she's still in. But what I'm saying is that when you lower the standards and you're going to lower them across the board, like is from what the article, I'm spitballing and I'm guessing because it did say that in the article. I just have seen it in the Army by being able to go in on different time periods and seeing that the Army doesn't raise people up to the standards. They want to lower them so they can get more people passing because it makes their numbers look better. I can see that they're going to lower the standards again instead of doing what we should have done back in the past when I was in, was having two separate standards.
I mean, this is a relatively newer thing, like I said, in that this idea that men and women are equal in everything, and the fact that if you're biologically a male, but that you identify as a female, that somehow, you're not going to, I mean, we just know that there are certain things that men who are at the peak of their physicality are going to excel in better than women at the peak of their physicality. You're saying the exact same thing. And I think it goes back to, you do need two different standards. We can't just pretend that one standard for everyone is going to work, because as you said, if they do lower the standard, then it looks like 100% of the men are going to pass. And you're going to also have,
that shouldn't be the case either, guys. I will tell you, when I first went in the military in 95, our 2-mile run max was 11:54. That was the max that you had to get for the 17 to 20-year-old age group. I think that above that there was like a 17 to 24, and then 25 to 32 it was 12:30 something.
What was it here? Yeah, I know you pointed it out. It's
it's like
right
that's
here. The 2-mile run, it has to be
to pass is 21 minutes. I think they had to pass. But it
sounds like for women, judging by this, that's a lot, because the fact is only 5% of women pass that.
And that 21 minutes on a 2-mile is ridiculous.
But are you saying for a man?
For either. You think either is ridiculous, bro. And granted, I was in very good shape. Yes.
Wait, I'm getting this wrong. Let me get I want to get to 22% of women failed that. Not 22% passed. 22% failed. But only 5% of men failed that.
And that is because that is a way easy standard. You should be able to run 2 miles in at least 18 minutes. Airborne school
for both.
You can raise it to 19 if you want on the women, but as women are good runners, you're a runner, you're a good runner, period. And 19 minutes is tremendously high. It gives you a lot of leniency to pass or fail, when the max is right around, I think now 13. But what I was getting at is that what happened is we raised the standards from 11:54 to now went to 13 was the max. The passing was always around 19 was to pass. You can walk that. We had guys and men and women coming around the track, walking some of the laps and still passing with the 19-minute standard. Then they raised it to 21. I didn't know that, bro. There's nobody in the Army that shouldn't be able to do a 21-minute 2 miles. That's 11-minute miles. We used to walk with 50-pound rucksacks. We would walk at 10-minute miles with 50-pound rucksacks. That was the standard.
Can I throw something out there though? I would and look, this is me playing devil's advocate.
Oh, please.
I've never been in the Army, but there's a big difference between what you did in the Army and what a lot of people do in the Army. There are people in the Army I know who respectably serve. This is not disparaging to them, but most of their career is spent behind a computer doing documents and things like that. There's not much of a physicality to what they do, right?
There still is. You still have to maintain some professionalism, and also PT and being good in physical condition, as you know, is just as good as I do, helps with other things as well. It helps maintain your mental acuity. It helps maintain your situational awareness. It helps you maintain a pride within your job and in yourself that carries over into the job. If you have pride within yourself and you have confidence within yourself, it's going to carry over into your work. You see those that don't, the majority of the time, it follows into other categories of their life when they don't have pride in just themselves and even their appearance. And I'm not saying you run a 21-minute mile in 2 minutes. Yeah, you're not going to look like the Special Operations Ranger or nothing like. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying you have to run it in 13 minutes to max it. Like I think that's what the max is now. I'm saying just 21 minutes is so ridiculously easy. Is that I'm so shocked that we're even having a discussion that people can't pass the 2 mile run in that length of time. And then also the other things that are on there as well. I think I read the article at the end of it. It said as well that, the reason people are having problems with the run is because of all the events they had, the 5 events they had to do prior to. Well, that's the whole point of putting the run at the end. When I did it, you had to do push-ups and sit-ups first before you went and did your run. And it did make it harder, but it gives that person or provides them the chance to get better mentally. Running is a mental game, and you have to have your mental acuity to be a good soldier. Whether you're a ranger or whether you're sitting behind a desk at the HQ, you're sitting at I-Corps shuffling paperwork, you still have to have that readiness that physical fitness brings into it. In the Army and the military, is looked at with physical readiness or combat readiness. And I want somebody that at least is confident enough, even though they never see the battlefield. Man, when I'm downrange and they're doing let's say they're in payroll. Okay, there are people working in payroll and they are out of shape. They don't care. And obviously, they don't give a shit about their job. They don't care about themselves. And they're not able to pass their PT test. So, man, their morale's down because you're going to get hammered. When you're not able to pass your PT test, your command should be hammering you to pass it. And you're getting Article 15s or whatever that come with not being able to pass and meet standards. And they're in payroll. And I'm downrange, right? They're not taking their job seriously. So now I'm downrange working. Now I'm downrange shooting. Now I'm downrange in combat. And guess what happens at home to mama? I get a letter or a call when I talk to mama and she says, hey, we didn't get paid today. Holy shit. That is not something I want to hear about when I'm down in Iraq or Afghanistan. That, oh my gosh, my pay screwed up. Well, why is my pay screwed up? And I'm reaching. People are saying, Tano, you're reaching. I'm not. I don't feel like I am. That gentleman or man or woman that can't pass their PT test, that doesn't take pride in their work, that doesn't give a shit about their piece of paper they're shuffling, goes to the wrong person. And I've seen it happen where pay messes up to guys downrange. I have seen it. Don't know if that's the case, but because there was a guy that was in shape or man or woman that was out of shape or just didn't give a shit about their job, that they put it in the wrong file or the wrong person got paid. And it happens within the Army. It happens within the military. When that goes on, that is a stress that somebody downrange does not need to have because it gets your focus off what you need to do. And that is just to stay alive. That's why it is important. To me, it is important for everybody to have a standard and to meet that standard. And if you can't meet the standard, then you better work your ass a little bit harder so you can meet the standard. Because the standards they have set right now, I looked at the PT test, I looked at the new standards. Guys, if you can't meet the minimums, I don't even know how you got in the Army. I don't know how your command structure is just not enforcing those standards. It's terrible. They're so freaking blatantly easy. But I'm going to see politicians just like they did the second time I went in, where they lowered the standards when I went in the second time, which made PT so easy after the first time I was in. It's going to affect the whole military and it's going to affect morale. And it brings the PC culture into the military where it doesn't need to be. All right. And it makes standards different. It makes the standards lower. When, again, we should just go back to what we were before, having a men and women standards, make sure they meet those standards. And if they don't, give them the time and give them the extra training to do so. And if they don't, again, they don't belong there.
Yeah,
you got to drop. I know we got to go, dude, and it's hard to talk about because but it is.
No, I know you get passionate about it. I understand.
It is that important.
Speaking of physicality, I'm going to tell you this. Sean Lake, the CEO of Bubs Naturals, I saw it on his Instagram actually just yesterday. He posted a picture at the beach with his son, and that is a guy in awesome shape.
And he's 50. And he's 50 years old.
Yes, and you know what? You want to talk about someone who truly believes in their product and what they're selling. You can listen to Sean talk about Bubs Naturals, and there is a reason he's so passionate about it. Collagen is really a game changer for any of you in the fitness world, any of you going through any joint injuries. You're absolutely going to love it. We've been partnered with them and we love what they do. They also have the MCT oil powder. I'm looking really forward to trying the apple cider vinegar gummies that are coming.
And definitely the Fountain of Youth formula. Oh my gosh, that stuff works so well. And it tastes so good. All that stuff, I've been using it now for the last year. That Fountain of Youth formula that they have. If you want to see some differences in just your ability and your stamina, and you can see it in your nails and your hair. For an old guy, it works. Start taking it. And I've had people already call me that are starting to take it. Friends that listen to our show, that are personal friends, said, man, I tried that Fountain of Youth formula. That stuff works. My hair looks good. I feel better. My fingernails are growing again. It's tremendous, brother. That stuff is a blessing. I can't believe we found it because I swear by that. Oh, it's tremendous stuff.
Yeah, and if after a workout you feel like, you don't want to get weighted down with your whey protein and it is heavy when you drink that, you could just put this in water, hot water, cold water, and it is not, it's going to give you the protein that you need, but it's not like a heavy meal that you're going to have, and you're going to feel the difference. So check them out. It's bubsnaturals.com. Use the promo code Battleline, and you're going to get 20% off your order. And as we always mention, the mission, 10% of that profits from what they get in, they give that to the Glenn Doherty Memorial Foundation, which helps people trying to get an education, helps veteran families. So not only are you going to get something great that's going to change your life, you're also going to help a lot of people in the process, and you could feel good about it. So bubsnaturals.com, promo code Battleline for 20% off, whether that's the Fountain of Youth formula, the MCT oil, or the collagen protein. And I can't wait to try those apple cider vinegar gummies, because I'm a big believer in body cleansing, whether it's liver cleansing or, detox, and apple cider vinegar has a ton of benefits. But as Sean said, tastes terrible, not something you want to drink regularly. So he thought of, why not make this an easier thing to get down and more enjoyable and that tastes better. So that's their next big thing. We'll get to Karl Monger. But once again, guys, bubsnaturals.com, promo code Battleline. So joining us for the first time on Battleline Podcast, but it's certainly not the first time either of us have spoken to you, and it's an honor to have you on. Karl Monger, Executive Director and founder of Gallant Few, retired platoon leader and company executive officer with Army Infantry, also an Army Ranger, and the author of Common Sense Transition, A Call to Action, and a Blueprint for Change, which is not, why he's here to promote the book, because the book is actually from 2017, but you could still order it. But I have to say, for one, great to have you on. But for the audience, Karl is a guy that really believes in helping veterans, whether it's with transition or with post-traumatic stress. There's a lot of charities out there, but with Gallant Few, there is that personal connection that I know for the duration of you having Gallant Few, you've always said, hey, if you're a veteran going through a hard time, here's my number. You could call me. And how many organizations do that, really?
Yeah, I don't see very many. I get some pretty interesting phone calls at times too.
And Karl, you've had a lot of things going on, or actually there was a lot of things that were canceled the last couple of years with Gallant Few. Before we get into that, and I do want you to talk about that, the stuff you've got coming up, because I know things are going. I still get the emails. I'm always getting emails, seeing what's happening.
Send us to the junk pile, huh?
Yeah, no, it doesn't go to the junk pile. It goes where it needs to. So I'm always making sure to open them, so you get those clicks. So you're like, okay, we're still doing well, But before that, and this is something when even I listen to you on shows, you talk about Gallant Few, which is what I would like to hear you talk about a little bit, but we've never got into your service, and you had a tremendous career, and you were an Army Ranger, or you should say you are. Well, we don't get hung up like the Marines do, where we got to always say, yeah, I'm a Marine, I'm still, but you were served. And can you talk about some of that? Because I've never heard that on a show, and I think a lot of our listeners, even those that know who you are, which you are very well known in the community, and the people that follow the community, your service. And we got a lot of youngsters that listen to this show that want to join. And I always like having original gangsters, the OGs in here, talking about service and what to expect and advice that you'd give them that maybe you wish you would have had, and your units in per se. So can you go back with a little bit of your history? And and you got the stage, brother. You talk as long as you want.
Yeah, you're talking OG, in Ranger terms, we used to talk BG, which was
before Gore-Tex. Yeah. That was Ian, that was the 95 shift. From 95, we didn't have Gore-Tex, and that was the change. When I came back into the Army in 99, we had Gore-Tex. So I got BG, and then I got the easy days with the Gore-Tex. But the Gore-Tex, all that shit did was made you sweat underneath, so you were wet anyway. It was either from the rain or from the damn.
It didn't matter what kind of rain gear you had. You never wore it anyway, so it really didn't matter.
It didn't matter.
Right? The only time I ever wore a Gore-Tex jacket was, I didn't on active duty, but afterwards I got one that's going to the grocery store.
Ah, dude, right? I hate that damn thing. The only thing I ever used Gore-Tex for was when I went out and I had one of the Gore-Tex sacks that I could snuggle up in with my whoopee when it was raining out. I didn't have a sleeping bag, but I had just the wrap, and I had my little whoopee, and I climbed in there just to stay warm for the night and wet and dry. But I ended up sweating like a son of a bitch anyway. When I got out of it in the morning, I was drenched in my own sweat. Like, well, I just lost 8 pounds sleeping in my own hot house for
the Tonto diet plan, right?
The Tonto diet plan right there. Don't do that, guys. I don't believe in sweating your fat off. Don't do that. That's unhealthy. All right. But yeah, Karl, because that's a lot of guys don't know that. Even guys that know you don't know your service, and you have a tremendous career.
I appreciate that. I just put together a presentation I'm doing for. I did last week for BAE, which is a defense contractor. They're a veteran group, and then this upcoming Friday, I'm going to give the same presentation to a Lions Club. But it's the story of Gallant Few, and my story is well over 100 years in the making. Yeah. And it goes back to, if I trace my line back in the U.S., it goes all the way back to the Revolutionary War. So my father's father's father, almost an unbroken, continuous line of military service back to the pre-revolutionary days. And my father, my grandfather, my father's father, was a career sergeant and infantryman, got his CIB in the Eastern Theater of Operation in World War II, was on the ground during the war in Korea, and then also Vietnam. And he was an alcoholic. He had to have post-traumatic stress, probably traumatic brain injury or two. He and my father had a horrible relationship. He threw my dad out of the house when he was about 16.
Wow.
And my father ultimately ended up walking out on my family when I was 4. He retired as a sergeant major. My birth last name is Vawter, Vawter. And my adopted father, he adopted me when I was about 12 years old, name changed to Monger. Okay. And what's really interesting is he passed away. It's been more than 10 years ago now. And the year before last, my biological parents reunited and they got remarried.
Wow.
So now you want to talk about a case for a psychologist study, right? Because my biological father is now my stepfather. I'm the only one in the family that still has the name Monger because everybody else has been married, or my mom changed her name back to Vawter now. So it's like, kind of get left
Karl
behind.
Monger is a cool name though, I think.
Well, my soldiers, when I was company commander, nicknamed me Warmonger. So
I knew that was coming. I was like, Monger, and you're a military guy.
But that's got to be the most awkward. Did they have a wedding down the line? I mean, or did they just have?
No, they had a very small wedding. It was just close family. But I have 2 half brothers and a half sister that I never knew growing up, and it just that's a weird dynamic. But what, in retrospect, that set up the conditions for me to do what I do now. Yeah. Because back in the 60s, there was this brand new program called Big Brothers. And now it's Big Brothers, Big Sisters. But I was one of the first in 1969. I was one of the first kids to be given a big brother in the program. And so for a couple of years, I had the benefit of being mentored by an attorney who drove a 68 or a 69 convertible Stingray white Corvette. So I'll make an impression on a little kid.
Yeah.
And then when I went on, so I got the experience of mentoring. And then when I got into college and became 18, then I signed up to mentor a kid. So I experienced Big Brothers, Big Sisters from multiple angles. And after I left the Army, I even went and ran a Big Brothers, Big Sisters agency for a couple of years. So
I never knew that I had a little bit of a connection with Karl here, and that I did the same thing in college. I mentored a kid with Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and it's something I've always wanted to do again.
Yeah.
This was so many years ago. It was a great experience. I think it's a great program. So I could understand how that would make you want to get into the nonprofit world. Going back to your Army Ranger days, because I do want to get into that some more, as Chris said. What inspired you to be an Army Ranger? Was it just the fact that, as you said, my father had military service, my grandfather had military service, or was there something individual for you that you?
Hey, I didn't know anything about my grandfather's military service until I was an adult. I had no clue. But and my mom steered me as far away from military stuff as possible, but I got tricked when I was in college into taking an ROTC class that was a marksmanship class in disguise. Well, it wasn't in disguise, it was a marksmanship class, but it was an ROTC class in disguise. And the professor of military science at Wichita State University was a lieutenant colonel named Andy Kushner. And Kushner had Ranger Tab. He was Special Forces Vietnam. He was 82nd Airborne Dominican Republic veteran. Just, had all of and he looked like If you've ever seen the bronze statue of the Special Forces soldier with the rope around him, he looked like that. I mean, that was him come to life, and bigger than life character. And he and I immediately hit it off, and they did a couple of weekend trips where they would go rappelling and rock climbing, and in Kansas by Fall River.
Yep.
So we went out there, and I thought that's what the Army was all about. And he was telling all these, SF Ranger stories. And so we even had a little club at Wichita State that we called the Wichita Rangers. And we would go out on the weekend. These college guys would go and cross the Arkansas River, neck deep water with no safety ropes whatsoever, because we thought we were doing cool Ranger stuff. And and we all said, we're all going in the Army, we're all going to go Ranger. And I'm the only one that went Ranger. All the other ones ended up going into the Army, but they all did other things. And so I had, as a cadet, when I got into that program, this was 1981, spring 1981. The colonel came to me and he said, "Hey, we have an airborne slot for this summer. Are you interested in going to jump school?" And that was one of his ways of helping hook me into the ROTC contract, I think. But I was the only one in the school that got to go to jump school. And that was the first military school I'd ever gone to. I hadn't gone to basic training, no ROTC advanced camp. It was college kid, go to airborne school. And I got there, I had hair down over my ears. I mean, I was a big target, but I immediately felt like I fit in. It was that Forrest Gump, square peg, square hole kind of deal. And I came back, tried to get them the following summer to send me to Ranger School instead of ROTC Advanced Camp, but they didn't have the guts to do it. So I then ended up becoming an infantry officer in '83, was in Ranger School during Grenada. So, very immediate. I'm almost always been there kind of guy. Almost always been there, because I was in Ranger School during Grenada. I went to Fort Lewis, but I stayed on the 9th ID side, so I didn't go over to the other side. Rangers intimidated me a little bit. I from knowing them in Ranger School, I'm like, I don't know if I can hang with those young guys, and so I stayed just on the infantry side. But then I commanded an infantry company in Hawaii, and my first sergeant was a guy named Jimmy Acuna, who was a 3rd Ranger Battalion founding platoon sergeant and longtime black hat. My battalion commander was a guy named Jim Dubik, who was one of the original platoon leaders in 2nd Battalion, had been the 1st Bat XO, commanded a company in 2nd Battalion.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I'm surrounded by all of these Rangers, and Carl Horst was in the same brigade. And Dubik called me into his office about halfway through my company command term, and he said, I think you should put in a packet for regiment, which was like the highest compliment you could ever be paid as an infantry officer. And so it's funny, because I went around to all my old battalion commanders, because he said, you got to find all your old battalion commanders, get letters of reference. They all got to be great. Yeah. So I assemble all these letters, and Glenn Hale was one of my original battalion commanders in Fort Lewis. He was like the 2nd, 3rd Ranger Battalion commander. So I collect all these letters up. I go into Dubik and I say, "Hey, sir, I got all these letters. They're all on Department of the Army embossed letterhead, looking all sharp." And I said, "All I need is yours." And he opened his desk drawer, pulled out his Golden Dragons commander notepad, wrote, "Buck, hire this guy, Jim," ripped it off and handed it to me. And I said, "That's the letter you want me to send to DA?" And he said, "It's better than any other letter in that packet." Of course, he had been a platoon leader for Buck Command, who was the Ranger Regimental commander. So I'm in Hawaii. I have orders assigning me to Ranger Regiment, and they jump into Panama. Oh, shit. So I missed the Panama deployment. Actually became I was the first infantry officer to report in to regiment after Panama. So the Tablis E4. I was a CIB-less captain, right? Everybody else had a CIB and a mustard stain, or two. And so it took a while for me to fit in. I think eventually I did, but it was difficult. And then what happened? The whole Army went to Desert Storm. The whole world went to Desert Storm except the Ranger Regiment. Yeah. So Ranger Regiment sat and watched it all on CNN. We ended up sending B Company, Kurt Fuller, who retired as a 2-star general not long ago, Ron Callahan, who's a retired 1st sergeant. They went and took B Company and a platoon of A Company from 175 over, and they did some super secret raid stuff. But they were only there for a month, and then the war was over and they came back. And then in December of 91, we got alerted and we did a show of force insertion. So we flew from Savannah, did an aerial in-flight refuel, and jumped into Ali al-Salam airfield. This was still officially ground war. It was during the campaign to whatever it was, defend and rebuild whatever Kuwait. So we got credit with a combat tour, but no mustard stain, no CIB. But I got a right shoulder squirrel. So
that's actually pretty cool. That
was all right. And we were only there for 2 weeks. So that was even better, right? Because we went in, we did a big live fire. We walked through a minefield. I saved Chaplain Barry's life because he started to wander off to take a leak in the middle of the night, and I grabbed the back of his gear and I said, we're not supposed to go off this path. And I shine my light, and there's a freaking mine about 10 feet in front of him sitting off the side of the desert trail. So we had some good stories from that. But then came back, and I am scheduled to command BCO 175.
Wow. Okay.
Then we have a helicopter crash, October 29th, 1992, that killed Ken Stouse and 11 other Rangers and Air Force Special Operators. And that changed the course of my military career. So I've been in for a little over 10 years. And the battalion commander that came in to replace the one that was killed, Ken Stouse was killed, was Mick Bednarik.
Okay.
Mick ultimately retired as a 3-star, went on to command 2nd Battalion. And, there's this funny rule in Ranger Regiment that you can't command a company unless you've commanded a company in Big Army. You can't command a battalion unless you've commanded a battalion in Big Army. Yeah. Well, Mick hadn't commanded a battalion in Big Army, so he only stayed for a couple of months and then he left. And his replacement was Lieutenant Colonel Mark Pentecost.
Okay.
And Pentecost came in, and Pentecost had been my supervisor when I first got to battalion post Just Cause. And quite frankly, I don't think he and I ever really hit it off because I wasn't there. I wasn't part of the combat team. And so when he came back in, we were a little like oil and water. We just didn't mix very well. And he called me in his office and he said, "Hey, I'm going to give command of BCO to Jeff Bannister." And Bannister ultimately retired as a 2-star general. And so I got my feelings hurt and I quit the Army. I had enough time in that all of my obligations were met.
Sure.
The Army had reopened the voluntary separation bonus for captains in my year group because not enough took it after Desert Storm and Clinton was drawing the force down. And so I'm looking at, I checked the day after I lost the company. I went and checked, and I'm looking at a $200,000 buyout that had about a week and a half time limit on me making the decision if I was going to do it or not. And so I pulled the trigger and got out. And I made the mistake of, I can say made the mistake. Ultimately, I would not be doing this if I had stayed on active duty, right? Yeah. But I did not reach out to Jim Dubik or any of those other mentors that had guided and helped put me in that place. And I was too embarrassed to talk about it. And
it sounds like, when you say that you made the mistake or it's not a mistake, it really is a case of everything happening for a reason because, I'll say it, and I know Chris will say it, the amount of guys' lives who you've probably saved, what you're doing now, it probably has had more impact than what you would have done as an Army Ranger.
I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah, and you reach out and what we say? What if we can always armchair quarterback? Gosh, this should have happened here. But brother, and you wanting to reach out, how would that have looked if you're reaching out to all these people trying to pull strings? Now you're caught in the bureaucracy, and now you've got who wants to serve in a bureaucracy? None of us do. If it can't be, hey, I'm the best guy for the job. Just because you don't like me, let's put those things aside. Who is the best one here for the job? And you already had been there. Was it like you were the new guy? You weren't the new guy anymore.
Right. People always ask me, how long are you going to stay in the military? And I said, as long as I have fun and I get to do what I want to do. And then
it would have been a mess. You would have had to look over your shoulder for the next 10 years over your shoulder. Okay, who did I piss off? And you don't want to live your career like that.
Well, and I thought, here I have 2 OERs written by 2 Ranger Battalion commanders that say I'm going to command a Ranger company, and then I don't. Yeah. I'm thinking, am I ever going to get to command a battalion?
Yeah.
And so I'm really, you want to talk about getting kicked. That's a hard kick as an infantry officer, especially in that environment. But what happened then is I left, and this was August of 1993. What happened in October?
Oh, Black Hawk Down, Somalia. Yeah.
So now I'm like, man, should I have stayed in? Should I have volunteered to do whatever I could do for task force as a plans officer? I was the assistant 3 of 175, TSSCI. And so all of that stuff can really mess with your mind, and it can. Yeah. And I know what's so valuable about that experience though now is I know I wasn't RFS'd from regiment, but I know what it feels like to be RFS'd from regiment, because I've made that selection to leave after I lost the dream job that I wanted to have. And so I can have a conversation with somebody about the pain of losing your life's dream. And I can talk about how you take that information and you try to turn it into something that's positive, not only for your own personal growth, but also for the growth of others around there. But I can come at it with a very unique position of credibility, because I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like to leave the Army and to go to a social gathering and have somebody say, hey, what did you do in the Army? And say, I was an infantry officer, because you don't want to say I was a Ranger, because they're going to be, ooh, you were a Ranger. Well, what was that like? And then I have to, why aren't you doing that anymore? Well, because, I lost this job because my friends died. Then you got to go to all of this pain that you just don't want to talk about. You go to the VA and, your knees, your hips, your back are hurting. And you've got this VA slug is not the right term, but that's the one that comes to mind that is talking to you. And you're like, I don't want to tell you about the damage that I've done to my body, because I was a Ranger. That was kind of expected. That
was the job.
You don't have any clue what I'm going through. And you're going to question me on how much my back hurts.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, so you don't even want to have that conversation. So you start creating all of these walls and boundaries that you don't want to cross, and you don't want somebody else to cross, and one of the classic questions is somebody walk up to you and say, oh, you were in the Army. What, did you ever kill anybody? that can take you, either you're completely embarrassed because you never did, or maybe you did and it's haunted you every day for the rest of your life. But talk about a totally inappropriate question to ask. But stuff like that is going to come your way. And so what do? You try to avoid it because you don't want to have the conversation. Yeah. And the net of that is now you're avoiding somebody who might be able to come alongside you and have had a similar experience, military or non-military, but you've robbed yourself of the opportunity to create a relationship that might help make you better in the future. So you have to get past all of that stuff. And I spent years working on how do you get past all of that stuff. And a lot of it was, just I'm dumb. And sometimes I have to have lessons repeated over and over and over again. But this thing happened that when I go back to the 100-year-old transition story, my grandmother's brother, so other side of the family from my father that was in World War II, my grandmother's brother was a squad leader in World War I. He was in the 353rd Infantry Regiment, 89th Division out of Wichita, Kansas, and fought in the Meuse-Argonne battle, and among others. And when he passed away, I was on active duty. But a year before he passed away, I'd gone back to Wichita, and he and I found ourselves sitting alone on the back porch of my grandmother's house. And he and I had the same birthday. He was born June 1st, 1882 or something like that. And I was born June 1st as well. But that's the only common bond that we had until now. I'm an infantryman. And as I'm sitting next to him, he starts telling me stories that he had told no one else in the family about his experience in France in World War I. And the stories that he told were not pretty stories. It was like he had some things that he needed to let go of and he needed to talk about. And he had held on to them for 60 plus years. And I later on talked to my grandmother, and she was shocked at the things that he had told me because he had never shared them with anybody else in the family. Wow. So this is one of the things that's in the back of my head. The mentoring Big Brothers Big Sisters thing is in the back of my head. The the shame and embarrassment of leaving active duty. All of this stuff is in the back of my head. And I find myself one day, I'm looking at my great uncle's compass, because I have the compass that he was issued that he carried as a squad leader. I also have his canteen cup and I have his dog tags.
That's cool.
I have this 100-year-old compass, and I'm looking at it, and the azimuth on the compass, the north-seeking arrow is like all over the place, because it's like it's not an accurate device that you would ever use to navigate from one place to another. But that started me thinking about doing night land navigation in the Army.
Yeah.
And that started me thinking about transitioning from the Army and how it has parallels with night land navigation. Because you start walking on this journey, somebody gives you an azimuth, you go to TAP, right? They give you an azimuth at TAP, and then you leave Fort Benning, Georgia, and you go home to San Diego or wherever. And the conditions are not the same in California as they are in Georgia, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so you've walked into a black forest, but all you have to follow right now is that TAP azimuth that you were given. And that TAP azimuth may tell you how to write your resume or how to dress or how to interview or go to school, whatever that is. If it's not working, you're starting to go off your azimuth, right? If you're doing night land navigation and you walk through a spider web, what happens? You go off your azimuth.
You go off your azimuth, yeah.
You fall down a ditch, you go off your azimuth. So when the VA jerks you around, when you are not getting your GI Bill money on time, when you have to drink to go to sleep, all of these things are taking you off your transition azimuth. And the longer you stay off of that azimuth, the further off the azimuth you get, right?
Yep.
Just like in night land navigation, you go 100 meters. If you're a degree off, it doesn't matter because it's going to be right there. But you go 10,000 meters a degree off, you're in the wrong grid square by the time you get to the end of that walk. So I have worked with veterans who served in Vietnam who have been off azimuth for 40 plus years.
Yeah.
Right. And one of the shameful things is some of the biggest modern nonprofits out there won't help veterans that are post 9/11. I mean, won't help veterans pre 9/11. They only help veterans post.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
So Vietnam veteran or a Desert Storm veteran like me goes to somebody like Wounded Warrior Project and they say, don't have anything for you. You're pre 9/11. So that's, to me, that making that kind of a distinction and disqualifying a class of veterans that really needs help is the absolute wrong thing to do. So when we first stood up Gallant Few 11 years ago now, we kind of originally thought it was just going to be for Rangers. And then a buddy of mine who had helped me transition, that was a straight leg infantryman, Bradley company commander, he was extremely valuable in helping me transition into a civilian workplace. And he said, I love your approach. What you're doing for Rangers will work for other veterans. So what are you doing for guys like me? And so then we opened it up to any branch. And then we said, well, we can't disqualify based on time.
Yeah.
So any branch, any era, we will even work with veterans that have other than honorable discharges.
Yeah.
If they're a child molester, then we're not going to help them.
Yeah.
But if they had a drug offense or something that, is tied to post-traumatic stress or TBI, then we want to help them all day long because a lot of other people in the system will not do it. But that kind of is how his Gallant Few came together. I have to tell you, the other piece I almost forgot is when 9/11 happened, Joe Votel was the Ranger Regimental Commander. Joe Votel was my interim boss at the 1st Ranger Battalion. He's the guy whose office I walked into and said, Joe, I'm done with the Army. I'm getting out. And then 8 years later, he jumps into history. His uniform is on a mannequin in the National Infantry Museum in Columbus, Georgia. And I'm watching it on TV. Like, here I am, nearly been there kind of guy. Well, I was still, although I was inactive in the system because I'd had back surgery, I was still in the Army Reserve System. So I shot an email kind of in the dark to joseph.votel@army.mil, and he responded from Afghanistan 2 days later. And as we reconnected, he ended up inviting me to go to Ranger Rendezvous in 2003 when he handed the regiment off. And so I go there 10 years after I left. And I'm thinking, nobody's going to want to see me because I'm the guy that quit. right? And now they're all heroes and famous, and everybody's talking about how great the Rangers are. And now here comes old Karl trying to grab on, to a little bit of the glory. And so as I walked up to the back of the bleachers, I was dead set on just blending into the back. I was going to watch it. I was going to leave. And there was a Ranger there with a clipboard, and that Ranger caught my eye, and he's like, "Hey, sir, what's your name?" And I said, "I'm not on your list." And he goes, "Sir, what's your name?" I told him, and he goes, "Oh, follow me." And he took me. Joe had reserved a seat for me right in the very front row where all the dignitaries were. And it was an expression of forgiveness isn't the right term, but acceptance, I think, is a better one. That he was like, you served with me, you're accepted and you're wanted here. And as I talked to him and I talked to some of the other mostly non-commissioned officers that had now stayed there the whole 10 years in regiment after I left, they now had at least one, if not two, combat deployments post 9/11 under their belt. And I can see that they're not talking about their injuries. They're not talking about the things that they're seeing in their heads. They are drinking really, really, really hard. And everything that they're doing, they're pursuing to 150% like Rangers do, but it's self-destructive because they're not wanting to talk about the other things that they're really having to deal with. And, nobody's going to go in and talk about, hey, I had hip replacement when I was 51 years old. And the VA says, nah, it has nothing to do with 10 years as an infantry officer, 3 years in a Ranger battalion, right? Because when I was on active duty, I didn't talk about hip pain because I wanted to stay on jump status.
Well, you don't do that. You don't go to sick call unless your leg is broken and it's fallen off, and you got to put a tourniquet on it because it's protruding through your skin.
Yeah, and then you don't go for somebody has to order you.
You don't go. Right. You don't go to sick call for little owies. You don't ever have them recorded. I'll keep going because I can go about that all day.
Oh, I remember on my exit physical, I'm trying to max the hearing test. Man, I want to show this guy how good the hearing is because I'm a Ranger, and I'm like, well, that was stupid.
No, even knocking it down. The same thing. Like, why the hell did I try to do? I couldn't hear that, but I said I kicked myself for not getting good. But you don't go to sick call. You don't go to. And record your little owies because I still have all my hands and my fingers. I still have all those things. They're still working. Yeah, they hurt, but they're supposed to hurt. I'm at 75th. I'm at the Ranger Regiment. I'm supposed to feel. I'm supposed to be sore. If I'm not sore and I don't have little owies, I'm not working hard enough. I need to do something. So, now keep going. I got you.
No, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. But so now I have the benefit of being out for 10 years. And I have talked to a lot of veterans during that time. I helped at the job that I first held when I got off the active duty. There was an 82nd Airborne veteran there that had post-traumatic stress from Gulf War. And I helped and coached him through that. And I forced him to go to an inpatient alcohol treatment center.
Wow.
Because of the things that he was going through. But so all of these experiences are accumulating, and then I'm observing this in this community of men that I absolutely love. And I'm thinking, I have got to do something to help them to be able to not struggle like I did when I got out, right? With employment and with understanding my sense of purpose. And I want them to get a big leap. I want them to learn from the mistakes that I made, the lessons that I learned, so they can advance further. Because, you look around at communities, who are leaders in communities? Leaders in communities are not military veterans that should be leaders in communities. Yeah. Like I'm talking about, go to Dallas or Kansas City or Wichita or any of these other communities. The veterans are kind of under the radar. They need to be involved in local politics. They need to get elected to office. They need to do things that move them into leadership positions. And so anyway, all of this stuff, as it comes together, I come back to Wichita, and this was 2003, 2004. I set up the first U.S. Army Rangers LinkedIn networking group. And that over the next few years, it grew to be 1,000 Rangers. And every one of the Rangers that came into the group, I talked to or emailed with, who's your squad leader? When did you go to Ranger school? And the flakes I would not let in the group, and the ones that were legit, I would say, okay, so tell me what's going on in your life. Maybe they're going through divorce or looking for a job or whatever it is that they're trying to do. Then I would use that network and LinkedIn, and I would find a veteran, preferably a Ranger veteran, as close to them as possible and get them connected. And that's what built the network into ultimately what became Gallant Few in 2010.
Geez, that's a heck of a story. I didn't know half of that. And your adversity that you went through on your own, you're right. It helps. It would help somebody so you understand. Not that you've been there and done that, but that you gave up a lot. I understand that feeling of giving up and not reaching what you thought your dream was when I first got kicked out of the military. First time I was in, and how you can go in a spiral into down a slippery slope, and you didn't. And at least.
Oh, I had some not so great times. I went through divorce.
Sure.
I drank too much. It's something that, when you get into that, you let your mind start going into the regret, and it starts going into the why didn't I, why don't I, why can't I? Then you can just work yourself into a mental box that is not a healthy place to be in. Yeah. And anybody can do it. But I think it's particularly maybe acute in the veteran world because you go from this life where you're willing to lay down your life for the person that's on your left or right.
Sure.
And you train for what you hope is not that eventuality, but you train for bad things to happen, but you do it all for your country. You do it all because you want to guarantee that people at home remain free. And then you leave that environment and you go someplace and you get a job. The first civilian job that I had when I left the Army was safety and training director for a 7-Up bottler that covered Kansas and half of Colorado. And I went into that job like a Ranger officer would go into a new position, right? Tore everything apart. What's bad? What's broken? Let's reinforce the good stuff. Let's fix the bad stuff.
Sure.
And they absolutely hated me. I was the worst thing that could ever happen to them. They detested me. And it was like, it was a constant battle. I hated every day that I went into that job. I hated it because I'm trying to make my purpose making that place a better place to be. And they didn't want that.
They didn't want that. Yeah.
And so trying to struggle from, God, a year ago, I walk into a room and everybody's going to stand up because I'm one of the senior captains in a battalion, to here, I can talk for 5 minutes and they won't even acknowledge that I'm in the room. So you want to talk about a complete switch to the other side that will destroy your motivation. It will destroy your self-confidence, your self-image. All of that stuff goes the wrong direction. And the longer that goes, the worse it gets. And there are a lot of men and women out there right now that served honorably, that something bad happened. You think about, of all the people that leave the military this year, I bet 90% of them leave the military because of a bad thing.
Yeah.
Either they had a bad chain of command, or they got hurt, or somebody else got hurt, or they screwed up or got a DUI, or somebody back home got sick, but something happened that caused them to leave that system. There are a few that are like, nope, I'm going to go in, I'm going to do my 3 years, I'm going to get my college, and then I'm going to go on and be a whatever else. But most of them have something bad that happens. So then what happens when you leave? That bad thing you don't want to talk about. You don't want to have to acknowledge the reason why you decided to get out, so you may avoid having that conversation. And the veteran community, I think, is horrible at this. You start glorifying the dysfunctional, and you start making yourself look like the SF contractor that's done, 25 years in Afghanistan, and you wear that persona everywhere that you go. And you push people away from you, and that stuff it's just not healthy for that veteran. It's not healthy for the people in the community that surround that veteran, and all of that stuff I think we need to change. And
well, it romanticizes the negative. I tell that to guys too, especially ones that where they'll call. And I can tell when they're going down that slope. They don't have to tell me that they're thinking about blowing their brains out, but I can tell. I can tell just because I've been there before.
Right.
And I always tell those guys, stop romanticizing the trips to Valhalla. That you're going to, I'm going to go to Valhalla. We're going to stop romanticizing the death. It's not romantic killing yourself. There's nothing romantic about it. You guys have to, because I had to tell myself, I had to look in the mirror and tell myself. That was the hardest thing in the world, just looking right at myself and saying, hey, stop romanticizing the end of the world for you, because that's not the win. You're quitting on yourself. And
the reality is, Tano, the reality is that the image we have of ourselves in our head is the direction that our subconscious is going to take our development.
Yeah.
So if you have an image of yourself as being a loser that's going to go to Valhalla early, then that's probably going to happen, right? Whether it's by a bullet or alcohol or whatever else.
Yeah.
But if you have an image of you being an old man with great grandkids and, you cured cancer somewhere along the way, then you're going to subconsciously, your soul is going to try to take you that direction. We do one of the most powerful programs that Gallant Few does, and we do free for any veteran, is functional emotional fitness coaching. And that functional emotional fitness coaching is a step-by-step process that you identify the things that are of absolute importance in your life. So if I say, what is one area in your life you absolutely must accomplish in the area of love? Something is going to come to your mind, whether it's a relationship or your personal faith or something. Yeah. So what things are preventing you from doing that? What would your life look like if that was complete 110% perfect? And then what things do you need to do to start moving at that direction? Most people don't start with that end state, that vision of what, say, I need to be a better husband to my wife. Okay. If you are the perfect husband to your wife, what does that look like? Can you, in your head, can you imagine the things that you would do together, what the relationship looks like? How would you interact? What does it look like? Nobody stops and says, what does that look like? And then what it looks like becomes a very valuable, motivating tool to start doing the hard things that it takes to get there. I like to use the analogy of jump school. How many West Point cadets, hey, I was an ROTC cadet that went to jump school.
I hated you guys. I was so pissed off. Like, how the fuck does this? I had to go through basic training, and these guys just get to show up at jump school. This is horse shit.
Yeah, plane ticket and a haircut, and you're airborne, man. But all of those, let's say, West Point cadets, that go to jump school, how many of them end up serving in airborne units? How many of them retire as colonels or even generals?
I would guess very few. I would guess. Yeah. I would say the
how many? You look at the uniform, right? Senior officers that have slick jump rings, right?
Yep.
Why in the hell did that guy or gal decide to go through? I've heard the jump school is a lot easier now than it used to be when I was there.
It is.
But anyway, it's a challenge, right? It's a physical challenge. There is danger involved in it.
Sure. Oh yeah.
If, let's say, the Army said, you know what, airborne training is a really important thing to go to, but we're not going to let you wear a badge anymore. How many of them would go?
Right? I would probably 75% less would go.
Right.
I guarantee you.
So the motivation is the image of themselves with those wings on their chest.
Well, badge chasing. So we call badge.
But take that mentality, Tano, and turn it into your relationship with your spouse.
Okay.
If I can envision myself wearing a Ranger tab or airborne wings on my uniform, now I can envision myself in a good relationship with my spouse. And that gives me, when the spouse says something that normally my first reaction would be to bite their head off, now I can go, wait a minute, because I'm trying to get to this end result out there. So now I can maybe curb my tongue, or I can go ahead and do the dishes, or I can, whatever it is that moves the relationship forward.
Yeah.
And I had this really came to light with me about 5 years ago, because my wife had a job. This was right around the time that I'd learned about functional emotional fitness, and I went through the program myself. My wife got a job where she's traveling 90% of the time in the year. And she spent a lot of time in China and Germany and South America. And she would come home for 4 days. She wouldn't unpack her suitcase. She'd just flop it open like she's in a hotel room, because that's the way she's used to living. And then, but 90% of the time now, I'm here in the house by myself with the dogs. So I know where everything is. Everything is, just the way that I like to have it. And now all of a sudden, this person comes back for a couple of days and everything is a mess. Everything's out of the ordinary. What's your first inclination there is to be, well, why can't you freaking put your clothes away and get the suitcase out of the way? Or why can't you do the dishes? And what I did was I combined this brand new functional emotional fitness coaching with my vision of what I wanted my relationship with my wife to look like. And I looked at the dirty dishes in the sink and I said, damn, I'm glad there's dirty dishes there because that means she's home.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Not now there's a mess that I have to go clean up. And the minute that you start making that mental change, then life gets better, because the little things that you're holding on to that make you kind of bitter, all of a sudden you can turn those into things that make things enhanced.
Yep.
And the relationship gets better. The stress reduces. I mean, and I see countless numbers of veterans out there that haven't quite picked up that real simple little thing yet. How do you move your relationship or your job or your finances or your alcohol habit, or how do you move that to a positive direction without having a vision of what that positive direction looks like?
Yeah.
Right. So that's part of the coaching that we do, is create that vision for the future and then start asking the really difficult questions about what do you need to do to get there. A lot of guys, a lot of Rangers that I have worked with dip Copenhagen. I did Copenhagen for decades.
That was part of the standard issue when you got to the regiment. It was, here's your jungle boots, here's your Nomex gloves, and here's 2 logs of Copenhagen. All right.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So, but at some point, most of us decide we're going to quit.
Yeah,
right.
Well,
because either it's $10 a can now,
yeah.
or your significant other doesn't like it, or you're getting cancer or whatever it is, but you're like, I'm going to quit. And so you quit for like a week. And then something happens that stresses you out and you run to the store and you buy a can. And then when you put the can in, then what happens? Now you feel guilty and you feel weak, and your self-image is like, man, I can't even quit this. How am I going to succeed in other things? And so your whole brain starts going a negative direction. And a test for this is, if your internal self-talk, if you're trying to do, whether it's change of behavior, relationship, tobacco, but if you try to make a change and it doesn't work out, if in your head you're asking yourself why questions, why can't I stop dipping? How do you answer a why question? It's always with the same word, right? Why is Ian wearing headphones? Because he can hear better.
Because, right? Yeah. Because.
Every why question always has a because answer.
Because, yeah.
Why can't I quit dipping? Well, because tobacco kept you alert when you're in the military, right? Because that equated safety, that equated success. So I guess you're addicted, but it was for your country. At least, it was for a good cause, right? So then you rationalize yourself into going and buying another can. But if you have this vision of, man, with the $10 that I'm going to save every day for a can of Copenhagen, after a year, I'm going to have $3,000 and I'm going to go buy, a standard, a specialized bike. And, so you have this vision of what you're going to do, after successfully quitting the habit. And then you say, what do I need to do to stop? What do I need to do to earn that bike? Instead of why can't I? Now you're laying out a different path in your brain, and you're moving it in a direction that potentially can give you some success.
I've also learned I'm sorry, I was just going to say, I've also learned in my own life, unrelated to the stuff that you guys have gone through, but the things like those bad habits that give you that instant gratitude, that instant gratification. I think gratification are never usually the best things. The instant gratification is never as good as something that you could say, man, I earned this. Yeah. And when you work hard at something, as you're talking about, to earn something more important in your life, a better relationship, a better self-image, those are the things that you really feel good about, way more than a cigarette or a dip or any of that nonsense, really.
Well, as humans, we always want to move towards pleasure and away from pain.
Yeah.
Right. That's just the way we're built. And so the trick is, how do you make the pleasure greater than the pain it takes to get there? So the pleasure of the jump wings is greater than the pain of going through jump school. Is the pleasure of the relationship greater than the pain it takes you to have a hard conversation or to go to a counselor or to stop a certain habit? And most people can't just go, oh, okay, I'm going to switch today and I'm going to do things different from here on out, right? They need a process. They need some coaching on how to do that. and they need accountability that comes back around and checks and says, how are you trying these new questions? Are you doing this kind of thing? And that's what this program that we offer to veterans does. It costs $0 for the veteran to go through it. I now have 3 certified practitioners that can do this coaching. And we also will do it for military spouses and depending on the situation, a military family member, maybe a spouse or like a Gold Star family member, definitely. Okay. But we have limited resources, so we have to be careful how we schedule out the things that we do. But it's a phenomenal process. It takes about 3 hours to go through the initial dump on it. And then there's about 15 minutes a week where you just tweak it and follow up and make sure that somebody's being held accountable for what they're supposed to do. So
it's tremendous. Oh, it's tremendous. And a lot of guys I tell that are having problems, even myself, when I had my issues, and I like you talking about the family and the wife, because that's how I got my shit back together. Was, okay, I got to be a better husband. I got to be a better father. What do I need to do? And that's when I had that good long look in the mirror at myself, like, you're a douchebag. You're not do things you need to, and you're taking a good hard look at yourself. But what I did, and like you said, is you're giving people a sense of purpose, which is when we're in the military, we have a daily sense of purpose. Every day, there's a sense of purpose when you get to PT. At 5:30 in the morning, there's that sense of purpose to get through PT and excel. And then there's that sense of purpose to do whatever next task is on the daily regimen. And then when we get out, we lose that sense of purpose. Or like you said, you go to a job that you don't care for because that sense of purpose isn't the same. And that's when we have to start deconstructing ourselves a bit and accepting some of the things we have in the civilian world, that it's not the same. It's never going to be the same, but we can still give ourselves direction. And if that's what you're doing, which it sounds like, and I know Gallant For You does that, then you're going to help people. And some of us need that help. Even our conversations when I had just briefly when we would see each other, whether it was SHOT Show or NRA or I met your beautiful wife. Movie premieres. And at the Detroit one, was that when we met each other, you had your wife, I believe, there, and my wife was there. That was when I started to get my shit together. That was that right after the week before. It was when I was like, okay, look in the mirror. You need to fix yourself. And I remember that because I remember looking at you and your wife, and you were happy. I'm like, and I got to tell you, our wives look really good in their pantsuits. They did. They got both. His wife has arms just as big as Tanya's. But it's like, man, I think I'm finally getting my shit together. And looking at you and how happy you were and how you were holding yourself at that event, which was a tremendous event in itself in Detroit, was like, okay, I'm heading in the right direction. And you need to keep going. Just keep going.
Well, and it's something that there are some people that can do it by themselves.
But it's not easy. It's not easy. Yeah.
There are a lot of people that can't do it by themselves.
Yeah.
But they feel like it's too embarrassing to reach out to somebody and ask for help along the way. And, there is nothing embarrassing with reaching out and asking for help with someone who has experience in an area that you're not trained in.
Yeah.
That is, if you're not a doctor, or maybe even if you are a doctor, you break your arm, you're going to go find a doctor that can fix your arm for you. You're not going to try and set it yourself and hope it grows back in the right way. Right. So when you're talking about something that is as hugely important as a relationship, then why do you try to be your own doctor in that regard?
Sure.
Find somebody that can help you through that, and then do the things that you need to do to get there. The other piece of it is we get people all the time that go through the coaching and then they don't do the homework. So if you're not, it's like, I can teach you how to do a perfect push-up, but if you don't do push-ups, you're never going to max the PT.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Right. You can go bench press all you want. You can do chin-ups all you want. Yeah. But if you don't do push-ups, you're not going to do good on push-ups. But people don't want to do push-ups. So, it's the same kind of thing when you start talking about the habits, behaviors, and emotions. You have to practice. You have to actually do homework in order to move yourself the right direction. And once you get in the habit of doing that, one of the easiest things that you can do is when you have a situation in front of you, create a microsecond mental pause and ask yourself, in the long run, is this going to work for me? Yeah. Because that drink that you're getting ready to take, or that thing that you're getting ready to say, or the action you're getting ready to do might in the instant feel like it's appropriate and that you should do it. But is it really going to work for you in the long run? And if you can just and it comes, for me, it becomes very handy in conversations with people, because my natural state is more sarcasm. And if somebody says something to me, I may snap something back at them that they take great offense at, that I thought was pretty funny. And so sometimes I have to just, is this going to work for me? No, because they're probably not going to get it. So then I'm not going to say that thing. That can save you a lot of pain when you start putting a habit like that into place.
Oh.
Hey, Karl, the last thing I'm wondering is, and this goes back to something that you said earlier about, the things may have worked for the better, that you weren't able to continue your career as an Army Ranger. The fact that, not being able to continue as an Army Ranger led you to doing Gallant Few. Yeah. I mean, you're an excellent communicator. I think you're able to get these ideas through to veterans a lot better than either the average person who didn't serve or a guy who did serve as well. You're just very good at conveying these emotions. And I know that's why you've helped people like Michael Schlitz. So I'm wondering, do you believe it was God or divine intervention or something that led you down this path? What is it that intervened in your life to say, I'm going to start a nonprofit and I'm going to save veterans from doing things like taking their own lives?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that. Spiritual fitness is an important component of what Gallant Few talks about. Mm-hmm. But it's spiritual fitness, not religious fitness. Yeah. So I am not a fan of big organized church religion, because I think it gets abused too much. Yeah. I am totally a fan of spirituality and understanding that the nature has a tremendous way of taking care of all of us. I believe a lot in Stoic philosophy, right? So you have the ability to choose your response to anything that happens in front of you. Things that happen in the past don't necessarily dictate what happens next. Again, it's something that you have to train for. But when it comes to where I am now, without a divine hand in it, there is no way. I could not sit down and draw this path out and say, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start here. These are the experiences that I'm going to have so that I'm good there. Having said that, I wasn't forced to do any of this. And sometimes I have to remind myself when things get a little overwhelming that this is pretty much self-imposed. Yeah. Right? So if I don't want to talk to veterans today, I don't have to talk to veterans today, but I do. It's one of those things that for every person that's out there, I was not this articulate 30 years ago in any way stretched the imagination, right? Yeah. It's taken training and reading, and I actually have gone through some sales training things to learn how to tell stories better. Anybody that's out there that really believes in something that gives them purpose can find a way to be fulfilled through that can make their life richer and can help other people around them. I think when you look back, we talked earlier about the sense of purpose from the military to civilian world. When you look for a sense of purpose doesn't come from lining your pocket with money. Right? Some people may say that, but deep down inside, I suspect that's probably really not 100% the case. No, it isn't. You're exactly. And I was the most unhappy I was ever in my life when I had more money. It didn't give me any feeling of any good feeling at all. And then you had to look back, and that's the only way you could justify action. The only way I could was, my bank account's good. Oh, well, why am I feeling like such a dirtbag right now? No, you're right. I second that. And I don't have anything against making money. No, you got to pay bills. But if that is what you think your purpose is, you're going to be frustrated. Like you said, it's not going to be fulfilling for you. That money can be the fuel that helps you achieve your purpose. So if you believe in a particular organization, whether it's a church or a nonprofit or a whatever, go put some resources behind that, but get involved. It's too cheap to just write a check, right? If you believe in helping animals in your local community, then carve out time once a week or once a month and go there and volunteer and do something to help the animals there get adopted or look better, or whatever it is, because that's the way that you find purpose. When you put yourself at a little bit of a discomfort level, now you have to carve time out of your already busy schedule, or you have to go into a place that might not be, you might think maybe you don't want to be around that area because it's a dirty area or something. But if you have to sacrifice somewhat to go there and provide that service, now you're going to start to connect with purpose. And if you go there and you don't like it, then that's probably not your purpose. Look someplace else. But that's, to me, those veterans who have achieved the greatest sense of well-being after they've left the military are those that have identified a way to give back personally, whether it's volunteering at a homeless shelter or a meal kitchen or an animal thing or something like that. Those that I am extra blessed in that I can do this as a profession. And Gallant Few is helping me now get my master's in counseling. So here within the next couple of years, we'll have a licensed counselor on staff. Yeah. And then we can get the VA to help pay us some money for what we're already doing. But then we have the credibility to get the VA to really take a close look at us. One of the things, I know we're probably getting short on time. Okay. One of the things that is crucial that Gallant Few does is this thing called the azimuth check. And we encourage every veteran that comes to us to go to azimuthcheck.org. You can also go to gallantfew.org, and in the middle, if you click the button there, it'll take you to the azimuth check. But the azimuth check is a 25-statement self-assessment on your physical fitness, your emotional fitness, your spiritual fitness, professional fitness, and social fitness. And when I say professional fitness, I'm talking about budgeting, money management, professional network, what's your job plan, what's your education plan. Social fitness is responsible alcohol consumption. It's how do you go have a good time with other people that doesn't revolve around a bar scene. Yeah. It's how do you use social media? Functional spiritual fitness is having a sense of thanks for your life. It's feeling a sense of purpose. Functional physical fitness is diet and nutrition plan. Who are your workout buddies? What's your PT formation, right? Because I left active duty within 5 years. I put on 20 pounds, and guess what? Your back hurts a lot more when you carry around an extra 20 pounds. And now I'm back to where I was when I was on active duty, right? But that's not by accident. There has to be a plan in order for you to keep physically fit, because going to PT formation is the first thing that goes out the window when you leave the military. You don't have to do that at 6 o'clock in the morning anymore. And those habits, once you get away from them, are extremely difficult to bring back. Yep. The most important one is the area of emotional fitness, because that's guilt. It's having satisfaction in relationships with people around you. It's feeling love for others. And when we're able to get this assessment, it's a green, amber, red, just like in military training, right? Your professional fitness, you're a green, but your physical fitness, you're a red. Yeah. So let's talk about, tell me, are you satisfied with your level of physical fitness? And if that veteran says, nope, I want to improve my level of physical fitness, then what do you think the next thing I say is? What does it look like?
What does it look like?
Right? What's the vision? If you are in prime physical condition, are you rock climbing? Are you jumping out of airplanes? Are you playing racquetball, golfing? What are you doing? Okay, now let's start putting a plan in place so that you can do that injury-free, have a lot of fun. Let's get you connected with other veterans that like to do that. So it's a holistic process that we call creating a plan to be more gallant. So we do the azimuth check, find out where you are, establish the destination, and then start working your plan to get there. And then we recheck it. So after a year, let's do the azimuth check again. Has your physical fitness moved from a red to an amber, or is it still red? Now let's talk about what have you learned in this process? What's holding you back? What can we change that can move you where you want to be? It's all about identifying where you want to be, and are you satisfied with your progress on that trail? And if you're not, then we don't want to say, oh, your physical fitness is bad. No, your physical fitness is what it is now. It's a 2 out of 10 or an 8 out of 10, but that's what it is. So what do we need to do to make it a 4 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10? And if that's what you want, and that process, someday I want the VA to give every veteran an azimuth check once a year, because the VA does not assess us physically, spiritually, professionally, emotionally, socially. No. Right? They want to see what hurts today. Okay, well, let's give you some pain pills. Oh, you can't sleep. Let's give you some sleeping pills and some anti-anxiety pills. And then maybe go to counseling. But maybe it's not, they don't need counseling. They need financial management. So because they don't have a budget, and that's stressing them out, and that's causing bad decisions over here. So that doing that holistic approach, in my opinion, sets us apart from everybody else. And it has the potential to be a game changer in the world of veteran transition.
It's tremendous. No, and that's where guys, if you are, and Karl, he'll pick up the phone. I remember there was a couple veterans that called me, and I just called Karl. I said, Karl, I got these guys in this area. Do you have anybody? And he was, yep, I got them with their names, numbers. And I'll be honest, it was easy because I get real, even myself, I could just go, Karl, can you handle this? Because I can't do it. And I admitted to him, I don't know what I'm doing. And he just, I got him. And he took off and running. And so as far as foundations goes, brother, you've got it streamlined, and you're doing things that no other foundation's doing. My foundation doesn't do that. And that I know, but I know that if I don't have it, I can call you, and you're not too ashamed just because they came to 14th hour. You're not going to, oh no, they came to you first. You're not going to help you. You just said, yeah, I'll take them. And
the key thing is we don't want to recreate anything that you or anybody else does. We want to align. We want to partner. We want to.
That's awesome.
It's not a competition, right? We're not going to. Me helping a veteran or you helping a veteran. If you have a program where you take veterans on running events,
sure.
I'm not going to go create a running event thing. I want to connect that veteran with you if you like to run and they want to run, and right. So there are a lot of veterans or organizations that will go, they'll say, oh, I see a need for this. And then they don't look to see who does it. And they just try to start
it up. Yeah.
First, look around, volunteer. If that local group doesn't do good things, then by all means, go start something.
And there's so many different. There's so many different veteran organizations across the country that do all different types of really cool things that you wouldn't think of. I mean, off the top of my head, I got to know Rick Iannucci, who runs Horses for Heroes out of New Mexico, who's former Special Forces, and he does equestrian therapy. He has veterans ride around with horses. I would never think of that, but it's helped them tremendously. And what you do has helped people tremendously. So there might be a need for what Chris does or what you do or what Rick Iannucci does. And there's no reason that you guys can't coexist. As you said, it's not a competition.
And I know we coexist. We've already done it with Gallant Few. I coexist. And putting that out there, guys, it's not like me and Karl are just talking about it now. I said it because he's one of the few that there's no questions. I can just call and say, Karl, I don't, and just to be completely honest with him, say, Karl, I don't know what to do with this gentleman. Can you help him out? We don't do that. Can you? Because you pretty much do everything. And he's like, does it give me any shit or nothing? He's like, yep. What are their numbers? What are their names? I'm on it. And he takes care of it. And
well, we try to be kind of like the hub of the wheel.
Yeah.
Right. So if we have this experience with all these organizations, then when they send somebody our way, if we can't handle it internally, but we may know somebody that does.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. I heard one of the greatest eulogies at a funeral for a veteran one time, that he had, a guy was talking about him, and he said, he had an Indian nickname, and his Indian nickname was Anoa.
It wasn't Tonto?
No, his Indian nickname was Anoa, because if you said to him, hey, I need to fix my fence, he'd say Anoa. Or if I need to, whatever. So he's like, he had all of these connections. And so he's joking that was his Indian nickname was Anoa. But that's what we like to be. We're not going to create stuff. The functional emotional fitness coaching, that's our in-house program. That is a bedrock of everything we do. But, when you look at being able to partner with other organizations, there's a service dog organization. They train veterans how to go like adopt an animal, and then it's not like a full up turn the lights on service dog, but it becomes an emotional companion dog. But they train the veteran how to train the animal.
Is it a Warrior Dog Foundation? Because I know Warrior Dog Foundation.
It is. There's a whole bunch of them, and I want to say it's Paws for Patriots, but I'm losing exactly what the name of it is right now. But every veteran that comes into their system, they shoot them to our azimuth check. And then they tell that veteran, send us the email with your azimuth check results. And then they have the conversation. So we don't get in the middle of it. They do it. Right. Okay. And then if they run into something, well, this veteran could use some emotional fitness coaching, then they kick them back to us. And then, okay, so now we can do that. So they didn't have a process in place where they could ask that veteran about use of alcohol or anger or budget or other things. Now they have a tool that they can use to do that, and they can have that conversation, but then they can redo it so they can see, okay, by providing the service that we provide, have we moved their levels of fitness up? so they can go back in and redo the thing.
Wow.
That's awesome. Well, so once again, guys, it's gallantfew.org. You can check out Karl's personal website at karlpmonger.com. Once again,
Yeah, don't go to that one. Go to Gallant Few.
Okay. It's Karl with a K, and KP at KP Monger on both Instagram and Twitter. This has been awesome, man. And
I am revising the book, by the way. Common Sense Transitions, getting a revision.
No way.
Some stuff out that we've learned that doesn't work so well, and I'm adding some other stuff in. And so that this summer, I will have a revised edition of that book out.
Oh,
that's excellent.
People need to pick it up, guys. Karl's been there, done that, and you've just heard it right here. The adversity that he's been through in his own life when he got discharged from the military. This guy's a subject matter expert in how to handle things that we go through, and I say we veterans go through when we get out of the service, and also when we have that feeling that maybe we didn't accomplish enough. Which guys, and I get that from guys all the time. And guys, when I say guys, remember that's a gender neutral term here on Battleline Podcast. We're talking about men and women. That everybody, man, I wish I would have done a little bit more. Everybody said, man, I wish I would have done a little bit more. I wish I would have. We all did enough. We did what we needed to do, and now if you need help recognizing and need direction, dude, get over to Gallant Few and talk to Karl, and he will give you that sense of direction. Believe me, he'll tell you this is what we think we need to do, and listen to him. He knows what the hell he's talking about. You're going to find yourself, and just even our few conversations with me and Karl throughout that time when it was really hard in my life. I don't know if he saw it, but just even those conversations.
Check up on you every once in a while.
Yeah, he did. I just even those conversations would help me. Like, okay, I got to get my shit together, and not in a bad way. It's just, all right, I know what I need to do. It's wrong. Now let's keep working on it. And it did. It took me 3.5 years to continue to work on it. And it was always just talking to Karl. So like I said, the Detroit one, I completely remember because I had turned the corner. And I don't know if you could see it in me from the differences of how you taught me before, but I had turned the corner. And when I saw you, it was like, man, this is like full circle. I'm turning the corner, and look who I just met. And he wasn't supposed to. He was just there. We weren't planning on being there together.
Right.
He's just there with his wife, and like, oh my gosh, he's going to see me now with actually how I really am, not that prick that's running around these gun shows just being an asshole to everybody.
Well, Tom, I'm proud of everything that you've done. You've come a tremendous long ways. You've overcome a lot as well, and you're doing good work, and I appreciate that.
Thanks, Karl. And brother, I'm here for you. I got time. You hit me up. I know there's a lot of things that we still need to connect on, so I'm here, man. You just let me know what we need to do. And
let's get you roped into Patriot Challenge 2022.
What right? Yeah. Well, I did. I was gonna. It was dirty. I did the Run Ranger Run. So
what we've done is we've morphed Run Ranger Run now is Patriot Challenge.
That's what it is. Okay,
that's it. Yeah, and we did that because some of these knothead Marines are like, well, I don't want to do a Ranger thing.
Oh,
right.
Fuck.
And then there are other people that are like, well, I don't like to run. And you got Run in there twice and Rangers in there once.
But you got bike in there too. We can bike. It was in there.
Yeah, but so what we did was we talked to some marketing folks,
okay,
and they said the logo's black and gold. It's all Ranger everything. So think red, white, and blue. Think more patriotic. And we have the motto for Patriot Challenge is connecting America to her veterans. And one of the things that is incredibly important is we as veterans tend to go, oh, you didn't serve in the military, you're a dirtbag, you don't understand me, go away, you're not good enough. And that's a very bad attitude to have. And it's not a productive attitude because guess what? There are more non-veterans than there are veterans out there.
Yeah,
so you got to learn to cooperate. You got to learn to work with them, and you got to learn to lead them because you as a military person have had exposure to the best leaders in the military, the best leaders in the world. You've had exposure to the best leadership training in the world.
Yeah.
This country, my tax dollars, your tax dollars have invested in veterans. So when you go home, when you get to Fort Scott, get involved locally in the boards and commissions that do the parks, that do the schools, get involved because we need your leadership. You have demonstrated the ability to put the greater good over your own personal selfish wants and interests. A lot of people have never done that. We have just a quick story. We had this snowvid thing here in Texas, right, where we went down to -5.
Oh yeah,
Dallas, and I serve on town council. I've been elected twice now to my local town council, so I believe in being part of the leadership in a community. We had a woman that wrote an email almost in desperation to the town that said, get my power turned back on. Don't you know someone? Can't you make this happen? I'm like, lady, there's 5 million people in Texas that are out of power right now. You are not, I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. But as I read this, you can, so what's your response? The response that you make that's going to work the best for you, right? But how do I respond to this? I can say, oh, quit sniveling. Or I can say, you know what, this may be the most
traumatic event
in their entire life. They may have never been cold, never been hungry, never been wet. They don't understand what that is. They've never not felt safe. And now all of a sudden, everything doesn't feel safe and their house has got broken pipes. And so for this person, their scale, it's way up here. On my scale, it might be way down here.
Sure.
But for them, it's way up here. And we can come alongside people like that and we can say, okay, let's take a realistic look. What is the true damage? What can we do to make it better? How do we fix this going forward for next time? And that calming leadership is tremendously important, especially now when people are doing just batshit, stupid, crazy things on social media and face to face, right? So veterans need to step up and be leaders because we can make a true difference.
Definitely. Well said, Karl. Good man.
This was awesome. Great having Karl Monger on. As I said, we have some emails to get to. We have some other stuff. So we'll run through it a little bit quicker. But here we go. Sent to Battleline Podcast at gmail.com. This first one is from David Stewart. Ian and Chris, I found the podcast back in November of 2020. I have been catching up ever since. As of 14:30 local time yesterday, I finished episode 82, and I'm for the first time waiting for the next installment, which is so funny to me that people go back and they listen to every single episode.
That's awesome,
I really, I appreciate it, man. So you wrote, love the podcast. Have you thought about bringing on someone that has worked in corrections? Talk about a secret world most on the outside do not understand. People going downrange to one of the most dangerous places with nothing more than a can of OC spray and their wits. Talk about courage and commitment. Thank you for your time, David Stewart.
Well, I think, corrections would be if I knew anybody.
I agree.
Off the top of my head. But it is a thankless job, and they do. They aren't armed. They're overmatched and overmanned. I want to say, I've had buddies that have worked in corrections. I even worked at a halfway house going through college, and it is scary. And I wasn't in the correction facility; it was a halfway house, but still, you don't have any weapons on you, and you can get overrun at any time. So I think that'd be great if we had anybody. Maybe somebody could email us that works in corrections, has a great story out there, and we'll find somebody. But that's a great idea.
We would do it. Yep. Battleline Podcast at gmail.com. This one was really cool. This is from Patricia. This is actually, it's funny. I guess he uses his wife's email address because the email says Patricia, but it says Randy Dolly High. And I think I thought I was emailing a woman, but
Randy, I know that.
Randy.
Randy has actually come to, that name's extremely familiar.
He did tell me, he said that, he was going, I don't want to get into the specifics, but it seems like he was going through some medical issues, but he's doing good now. And I know he said that he picked up some firearms accessories from you, and it sounds like that's his passion. So you might have met him. Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have.
So Randy says, hey, Ian, thought I would pass this along to you, Chris, and the listeners about a restaurant in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina that has a huge amount of military items donated from veterans of every branch of service. It is not a huge cafe, but it is packed from floor to ceiling. I have attached some pics for you and Chris to look at. I thought if any of the listeners are there on vacation, it would be a nice attraction for them to see. These folks are very nice. They stayed over for me to look around. They stayed open for me to look around. Another item that I wish to know about, I was sent a friend request by someone you probably know. Her name is Kristen Greist. The page only had 2 photos of her. Okay, this is weird. Only 2 photos of that is of hers in the captain's uniform, and one is of some Rangers sitting on the ground. with all the hacking going on, I was reluctant to answer this. So I actually didn't even see the second part of the email. I don't know if you would have any idea who this person is, but so for the first.
Go ahead. Keep going.
No, I was going to say for the first part of the email, I mean, I looked at the photos. This place looks awesome. And, they even gave me the address, so we'll give them a shout out. This is at 3544 Northgate Drive, 3544 Northgate Drive in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. It's called the Veterans Cafe and Grill. And looking at the pictures, man, I wonder how they even keep going, because the thing is, you don't want to turn anyone down from giving you their stuff, but it looks like they don't have room anymore. If I was there, I would love to see all this, because they do an awesome job. I mean, you see veterans uniforms and flags and different accolades and patches and flags for guys who have fallen. I mean, it looks like a really cool place.
Those places, when you go to restaurants that are veteran-themed restaurants, and I'm not saying it in a derogatory sense at all, but they are veteran-themed. You've got all their stuff, real military memorabilia up there. It's cool. I still love it. I used to go. There's a place in Savannah. There was also a place in Georgia called the Cannon that you go to in Fort Benning, Georgia, or Columbus. And you walk in, and it just feels different, but in a good way. And you want to walk around and look at all the medals. And it's like a museum. It's like you're eating in a military museum.
Yeah.
And I would love, if I ever get to Myrtle Beach, which is cool within itself, just to go to Myrtle Beach and get there to South Carolina, I'd definitely check it out. And you go to those places and the food even tastes a little bit better. I don't know why. It's just, it's a greasy spoon, but it reminds you of the old greasy spoons and bar food, and the beer even tastes a little bit better. And it just is a walk down memory lane. And if you are a veteran, you know what I'm saying. You walk in there and you want to see, man, are there any World War II emblems in here, memorabilia in here? Is there any Vietnam stuff in here? Let's look for the Ranger insignias. And you catch yourself just walking around, just oohing and ahhing of the guys that came before you. And it brings your service to a whole new level of just satisfaction. Like, man, I had one of these. I was served alongside this guy who was in World War II, or I served and I was in the same unit, and I've got the same lineage as that Ranger over there. And it feels cool. So I would definitely check it. If I'm in Myrtle Beach, you better go there. You're missing out if you don't. You need
I will too. If I'm in the area, I'll be there. So as for the second part of the email, you don't know about that.
Kristen Grice, again, another. If I remember, I know that I've seen the name, just like Randy Dalahai, supporters of 13 hours, supporters of Battleline, and but I'm not placing the face. And Kristen, I'm sorry. I know
people
I should.
Also forget that. Let's be honest. You meet like literally thousands of people. It's
I do. Sometimes I just forget off the top. Man, I am getting older, guys. Remember, I'm in the AARP category now. I'm an old man, but it is. I'll forget a name or a face, trying to remember it. But then when I see them, and they'll say, "Hey, my name's so and so." Oh shit! Yeah, I remember you now. But
it's right. Also, you're not going to know, and neither would I, who is a legitimate Facebook page and who is not. If that's the question, I mean, it would be hard to keep up.
That's true. I can't, and I don't even keep up on that stuff anymore. There's a lot more to life than just, hey, is this a good Facebook page? Is this not? Is this legitimate? I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. I post my stuff. I get off. Social media is a good tool, but it's not something I will ever, and I've been down the road, I will ever get wrapped up again. It has the positives do not outweigh the negatives when it comes to social media and being immersed and figuring out what pages are fake and not in this. No, I have a fan page now, which honestly is done, which is great because it allows me the opportunity to not have to do that. The Audacious Andy, Tanoisms, man, if that's one benefit from being a public figure, I can't stand calling myself that. Having a page that, I mean, they even have thousands of followers now, and they can monitor all that, and they take care of all the fake stuff for me. And the blue check marks, now that Facebook and Instagram finally gave in and gave me the little blue check marks, now you know if there's a legitimate page of mine out there. But as far as others' legitimate pages,
yeah, it'd be.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, next episode, we're going to be guest free. So keep shooting those emails. It's battlelinepodcast@gmail.com. But also, I really wanted to mention. I was going to mention this in the intro, but I got too wrapped up into my running and PT stuff. But this is hugely important, is that Ty Woods had the dedication ceremony for the new Tyrone S. Woods Memorial Park in Oregon City, and you could actually watch it. It's and I did skim through it because I was wondering. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I was just wondering because I went to the page and there was a lot of like Zoom stuff, and I was like, is this going to be an actual ceremony or is this like a Zoom thing? No, it was an actual ceremony at the park. So it's youtube.com/City of Oregon City. And I'm saying that right. It's not.
Yeah, it's Oregon. No, it's Oregon City.
City of Oregon City, one word. And you could watch this entire memorial dedication ceremony. I didn't get to watch the whole thing yet. I probably will. But it's just great to see that Ty Woods, that legacy is living on.
And, heroes never die unless they're forgotten. And no matter what politics that get played into Benghazi, it will always be there, because for the right and the left, and, the true story and the heroes, as long as we remember them. And I do believe that Ronan Bubb will always be remembered, and the ambassador and Sean Smith, Ambassador Stevens, but will always be remembered because of people out there like, that like you and like the listeners out there that know what happened and know those guys. I said, if it was the military, if we were in the military, if we were actually signed up in the military at the time, they would have both gotten the Medal of Honor easily for their actions they took. So, but just remembering them, I think, is even better than any medal they could ever get. Or I'm not going to speak for their families, but they'll always be remembered as the heroes they are, and they gave their lives for us. And
having a park, I mean, that lets the next generation know.
Next generation, yeah.
There are going to be kids who go to that park. They're learning to read. I'm sure they'll see his face and they'll, say, "Daddy, Mommy, who is that?
Who's that?" And maybe that'll even help their parents look and go, "Wow, I don't know who that is." Oh, it's an honor. So like I said, Tyrone and Bub will never be forgotten.
Yeah,
ever.
100%. And then some really quick other things I wanted to get to that I just didn't get to yet, of course, was that over the weekend, it was Armed Forces Day. So to those currently serving, we, of course, salute you and your service.
Thanks for your service. Yep.
Yeah. And then the last thing is that the next Battleline Tactical course is right around the corner, and there's still lots left. 1-day stress fire course at White River Range in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin,
Beautiful.
May 22nd. TontosGearLocker.com. Now, here's something I should shoot at you is when I put up stuff for Battleline Tactical, actually on Facebook, I've had people say, I'm not really a proficient shooter, so I'm not really, I don't think this is for me. This particular course, you do have to be, right? And then there's
this one you should, because there's a lot of gun manipulation. There's a lot of running. There's a lot of physical activity that goes on, and you have to be knowledgeable of your firearm, because you have to be safe with it. And new shooters aren't very knowledgeable of their firearms. That's just because you're new. You're not used to using it. You got to know where that muzzle is at all times. You got to know where the safety is. You got to know how to manipulate that safety while you're moving. You got to know how to change mags and change your magazines while you're moving. And a novice shooter hasn't done that yet. And it's not because we can't teach you. We can, but it's only a day. You're going to have shooters out there that have shot for a while. That newer shooter will hold up the class, which that's just how it is. You got to go at the speed of your slowest shooter, but it's also safety. It's just like having somebody that's never driven a car before, putting them in a car and putting them on the Autobahn and say, go. You don't do it. It's because it's very unsafe. An accident, your chances of having an accident increases exponentially. So don't want any.
You have other courses though, right?
Oh yeah.
Someone like that. Okay. Cause I'm wondering, even for myself, right? I mean, I'm not a proficient shooter. I know a few basics here and there, but I did get responses on Facebook from one person in particular. They were like, "Hey, I'd love to go. Really want to train with the guys, but I'm not that proficient." And
we have entry-level pistol, entry-level rifle, our defensive concealed carry course. We can get entry-level students into that one because we can break the groups up. And it does say that. It'll say there, prerequisites required, or it will say none. And this year, since the last 2 years, we had done probably 90% of our courses were more entry-level courses. this year, I just wanted to change it up. Honestly, guys, it was for me. I was like, gosh, okay, let's and we're getting a lot of return, which is great. That's what you want to see, a lot of return students that I know need to go to that next level. So it's like, well, I can't keep teaching the same students the same stuff every time. We've got to go to the next level. They're ready for it. And also the ranges that we have found can accommodate those sort of courses that we're doing, like Lake Geneva. It's a big enough outdoor range that we can do what we need to do. So, this year I know we have been low on the entry level courses. That was by design. That was my choice. Next year we'll mix it back up where we have entry level again, and then we also have more of the advanced courses. But also, guys, if we're going to a course like Lake Geneva, Devad Defense, who helps sponsor our course to go up there, they will run entry-level courses to get you prepped up to come to ours. And Shreveport, Red River Guns Range does the same thing when we're coming to do a stress fire there. When we go up to GTI out there in South Carolina, that is one of the benefits that we have and why we use such great ranges is that if we're doing an advanced course, the course that's holding us will hold an entry-level course so you can be ready to go. So you may come and do a day with them and they'll say, and I've given them, hey, you guys, I know they're instructors. I know they know what the hell they're doing out there. I give the blessing. I said, hold that entry-level course. If somebody doesn't have the skill set, get them trained up. And when they say they're good to go, then they're able to come to my course. So, and that's especially Devad Defense. We've been doing that for the last 2 years. It's worked out beautifully because it not only brings them some extra business, it does, but it also gets people, like we get the emails. If there's somebody that I don't have the skill sets yet, well, Devad's going to be holding ones that can prep you for that skill set that you need. Just come and run through that. And then you come to ours the next weekend. And those are always out there, and there's options. And on our flyers, it says there at the bottom who you need to contact at the respective range if you don't have the required prerequisites, and they'll give you a list of courses that you can take with their instructors that'll get you spun up. And that's the beauty of having Battleline going for so long. Now I know which ranges I'm comfortable with that have instructors that they know what I'm looking for. They know what prerequisites the student needs to have, and they can get them trained up so they're ready to come to my course if they want to come to that stress fire. So it works out either way. Or you can just wait till next year and we hold our own entry-level pistol or entry-level rifle. And one last thing on that, guys. For those that are signing up for courses this year, or we've already had a course and have signed up like in Florida, I had one more Tunnels Toolbox left. As a way of saying thanks, I'm going to give it away for somebody that signs up for a course this year. So if you sign up for a course, a one-day course, you get an entry into a drawing. If you sign up for a 2-day course, you get 2 entries into the drawing. And at the end of the year at Defender Outdoors there in Texas, that'll be our last course in November, I'll do a drawing for that $2,500 rifle, and I'm going to give it to whoever has signed up for a course this year. So I'm not going to sell it. You guys have taken such good care of me that it's like, you know what, here, let's do a drawing for this one. And so if you do sign up for a course, you're injured for the drawing, I'll draw it probably December 1st because our last course of Defender Outdoors right around Thanksgiving. So, but yeah, we want you guys. We want you. And if you're safe with the gun, we can teach you. In Lake Geneva, brother, I don't want to tell people porky pies here, tell them lies. I think we actually met our max. I think we actually had to shut it down because we had 30 people and I can only take 30. Okay. 30. And Lake Geneva, though, guys, if we have courses in Lake Geneva, it's right by the Grand Geneva Resort. It's like 3 miles away. That just bring the family. I mean, if you're going to come to a course, that is a course to come to. It's a beautiful outdoor range. It's very simple. Doesn't have all the bells and whistles, but it's right next to Grand Geneva Resort, which is right next to the water park. And actually, I'm taking my family up to this one. So nice. It's like a vacation. And Lake Geneva at this time of year, it's beautiful. Oh, and the fall. We'll have another one in the fall. So spring and fall, Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. It's gorgeous. So
does your oldest son shoot with you now?
He does sometimes. He's a good shooter. He actually comes out, he shoots, but he's still kind of, he's in that stage, 16-year-old. He's still kind of too cool to hang out with dad. But he's come to courses, and I'll put him on the line and he'll go through the line in training, and I'll just get one of the other instructors because he's like any 16-year-old brother. He doesn't want to listen to his dad. He listens to me, but he doesn't want to. So
I got it. Yeah.
Like he'll come and like in Chicago, I'll have Dan Lombard, who's the best pistol shooter I've ever been around. I'll say, Dan, hey, Christian, just work with Dan. And, he'll listen to Dan. He'll listen to me, but he responds to Dan when he's asking him the question. Where if I ask him a question or give him a correction, it's, and I'm rolling my eyes here. This is my son. Okay, Dad, I got you. So, but yeah, he's a very good shooter, and he's a natural athlete. He's been blessed with a lot of gifts from his mom of athletic genes, and he's just a natural. My daughter's too, but my daughter prefers horseback riding to shooting, so that's her thing. Yeah.
That's cool. Well, and I think as you look, I'm not a parent, but I would think as a parent, it's all about, whatever direction they want to go, not necessarily steering them in the direction that you like. So, TontosGearLocker.com. Thanks as always for listening every show, guys. We really appreciate it. Last show did tremendously. And we're going to keep this thing going. So support our sponsors. Check out all our social media pages. And that's it. Stay motivated. Keep grinding.
Keep grinding, guys. God bless y'all. Have a great week.
That's all for this episode of the Battleline Podcast, but we'll be back on Monday with more American straight talk. Until then, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Battleline Podcast and on Twitter at Battleline Pod. To sign up for future Battleline tactical courses, go to www.christantoparanto.net. Believe in yourself, face all challenges head on, and as always, never quit.